Duncan Riefler. I am from New York, 20 years in London. Work as a single family office and also an advisor to emerging managers.
I'm Suzanne Murphy, also from New York, uh, and run my own single family office. And I work with a family office that is relaunching a fund in the lower middle market event driven credit space. I think for me, it depends on what angle you're talking about, what scares me. I mean, AI is inevitable and really important, but as the mother of a 12-year-old, I think it's a scary space and it has to be really explored and understood, and we need to use it prudently, I guess would be the right word. What excites me is I think we are in a period of time where there's a lot of change, a lot of innovation. There's going to be money to be made in niche strategies. I do think emerging managers, which we talked a lot about today, have the opportunity to generate more alpha than household names. And I think the focus here on that was terrific.
What scares me, as I've been answering in the surveys, World War III. I'm not as worried about AI. I actually have a lot of faith. I've got older kids, but I have a lot of faith in the parents' ability to manage their kids
If
on
we
that.
can control the kids, that's the
Yeah,
problem.
yeah. Well, and everybody's going to have their own solution to that. But I think parents care and they'll figure it out with their kids. So hopefully we'll all benefit. I guess my question on emerging managers, I sort of from a very big picture perspective, I feel like, every cycle's different. And what happened in the last cycle since COVID is very large alternative managers garnered massive amounts of assets. And they're great big marketing machines. And as far as I can tell, they're actually pretty mediocre managers of actual returns on capital. The emerging managers, on the other hand, I think with niche strategies, can find bigger returns. And I wonder in this cycle with the Fed easing and with the China creating more liquidity, rather than people running out and buying a bunch of biotech stocks, maybe it's an opportunity to motivate the market to move more money into some of these better performing and emerging managers. Challenge is how do you get that story out? And Today's conversation was largely a brainstorming session.
Think it's absolutely true about the larger managers, but part of the problem is the larger allocators really run to safety, particularly when times are so uncertain. Your World War III comment, and that's certainly something to be very worried about today. But because you don't get fired for buying IBM. That said, I do think education, making people understand, I got some ideas out of today's discussion. For example, maybe there's a great business in putting a platform together for back office situations for emerging managers where we could garner resources that we could use over a larger group of people. That's not a business that has really been explored to its fullest yet. So I do think emerging managers, smaller managers, have the ability to generate outsourced returns because they don't revert to the mean. Problem with the big guys is there's only so many deals that move the needle for them, and then they all end up competing for the same deals. They pay more than they should and get lower returns.
Ooh, good question.
Tough one.
I mean, just tapping into this same narrative. Um, I feel like maybe what the platform could do is provide maybe a seal of approval. I mean, if this platform is going to basically be helping emerging managers be successful, um, maybe the idea is to try to sort of brand it a little bit, have a vetting process that's transparent, create some form of seal of approval that makes an emerging manager look like they're somebody that's sort of run through a little bit of a gauntlet. And I mean, that would be a starting point.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really interesting point. I think in order to do that, you'd have to put together an advisory board of people who are considered to be allocators of a certain level. You can't just say, okay, it's the 361 seal of approval. You'd have to put together, we have the CIO of this and the CIO of that. And if you got together a group that had a pretty good reputation about how their own endowments, foundations, pensions, funds, whatever you want to call it, have performed, that would be great. Are you going to get a good mark if you have someone on that board from Harvard? Maybe not now. based on the press
Yeah.
that Harvard has gotten recently. But if you put together the right advisory board, I actually think that could be very interesting.
Yeah.